people, how are you all? So I'm finally back with episode 2 of Jaipur Literature Festival 2022 book recommendations. If you haven't seen the episode 1, that is fiction book recommendations, please check that out. And this episode is about non-fiction book recommendations. And let me tell you, non-fiction book recommendations of JLF 2022 are seriously not something to be missed. Well, people who have been here, welcome back, and people who are new, welcome. This is Mansi from Readers and Creators. Among all the books JLF recommends, I curated this list of 10 non-fiction books for you. And honestly, I can recommend more from non-fiction category because that was really great. But I just concluded or extracted these 10 books for you all with the different genres, with the variants in them. So without any further ado, I will dive right into it. So the first book is The World of Color by James Fox. James Fox is a BBC journalist and he also had a Japanese show on BBC or somewhere. I haven't watched it, but I'm so curious about watching it. Well, this book, The World of Colors, the title itself is so intriguing. It's a cultural history and it talks about the extraordinary relationship of humankind with colors. The meaning and significance of colors in our daily life. Seriously, just think every single color and their meaning and how they are connected with our lives. Now we are familiar with 3 primary colors, but author talks about 7 primary colors and the root idea of each one of them. I am so intrigued by this title, but it's a really high price. I can't afford it right now. This is my wish list if anyone wants to. Well, so this book by James Fox, The Word of Colors, I'm so excited to read it. The Word of Colors, and also the whole aggregate of this book is how author tells that color is related with our history, culture, architecture, and in present with climate crisis. It's really amusing, isn't it? Next is What the Heck Do I Do With My Life by R. Venkateshan. This is a spiritual self-help book, and in this book, author talks about the change we recently experienced in past 2 years, and he claimed that this change is way more than what we experienced in past decade. So he is talking about how we have to adapt to this change. We can't be traditional or primitive or orthodox and keep moving on with our lives. If we want to adjust in this lifestyle, in this era, in this generation, if we want to make our place, we have to adapt that change. And in this book, he talks about certain principles, certain aspects, certain rules and ideas or steps, how we can bring that change in our lives. Next is Opening Kailasanatha, a temple in Kanchipuram revealed in time and space by Padma Kaimal. Now, I think we all are familiar with Temple Kailasanatha. It was built in 8th century and it is known for its stone sculptures and stone carving and the huge architecture. Now, why this book is important or why JLF recommends this? Because author goes back in time. Because the people who built this temple were warriors. But she tells that they had a certain different word also, a spiritual word. The things, the structures, the sculptures which we see only in material forms and just get amused, she goes in depth of that and she uncurls the idea of those builders who didn't only focus on material form of those structures, but the shadows, the gaps, the lights, and every tiny detail of it. So yes, it's great Indian cultural history and it's really fascinating. Next is The Modern Gurukul, My Experiments with Parenting by Sonali, Bendre, Behl. Now, with time, the traditional joint families are fading away and getting replaced by new modern urban nuclear families, right? So what happened to children who are raised in nuclear families instead of being raised by Dada, Dadi, Chacha, Chachi, Bua, Fupa and all that? Well, in this book, Sonali Bendre talks about 3 principles which let parents maintain the balance between traditional families and modern family for their kids and how they can really take help of these principles to raise their kids in this digital age. So this book is for modern parents, I guess, who are finding it hard to raise their children, or who are finding it hard to make their children understand the principle and values with which they were brought up, I think this will help them. Next is Empire of Pain, The Secret History of Sackler by Padma, Reed and Keefe. Now this is a true crime, biography, genealogy. I am so intrigued by this book because Sackler family is one of the richest in world, and often their portraits and contribution are seen in universities like Harvard and Oxford, etc. But what was the cause of this fortune? How they become this rich? Well, it was unknown and complex till now, until it came in open. Sackler family is responsible for making and marketing of Oxycontin, a simple painkiller which led to an international epidemic of drug addiction and killed nearly 500,000. Now this author, Patrick Radden, he narrates and reports the reality of this incident in this book. So I am seriously intrigued. It's like a big con on a huge level, on an international level, and it seems like something out of a movie, but it's reality. So I'm intrigued. Next is 10 Flashpoints, 20 Years, National Security Imparted India by Manish Tewari. This is a political non-fiction, and in this book, author talked about certain crucial incidents of Indian national security from 1998 nuclear weapon to 2019 Jammu and Kashmir. Now he talks about how India's potential is at home and abroad, and how India's national security is somewhat like shaken up or critical, and he suggests some unfinished agendas which must be finished or talked about in parliament or in public often. And author also suggests new ways in which Indian national security can be reformed in this digital era. This is a controversial book. It created a lot of buzz when it got released because, let's agree, it's about Indian politics. So I love controversial books. So I think I will read this. I will seriously read this. Next is My Life in Full, Work, Family and Our Future by Indira Nooyi. It's a memoir, and I think you all are familiar with Indira Nooyi, the former CEO of PepsiCo. She talks about what it takes to be an exceptional leader. Now, she is the first woman of race and immigrant to be a CEO of Fortune 50 company. Wow, she is an inspiration. In this book, in this memoir, she talks about her early childhood and her education in India and then later in Yale School of Management. Indira Nooyi gives us first-hand experience of what it takes to make this huge career and the sacrifices which comes with it. Next is Inventory of a Life Mislaid, an Unreliable Memoir by Marina Warner. This book is about post-war childhood. Marina writes about her young penniless mother who travels from Italy to London. This book talks about how her mother tries to be an English woman in London, but actually she is not. So she is just dwelling in between, being an immigrant, and her husband is away at war in East. So this is about constant hope and union of her parents, and this book is historical and speculative. Next is Out of China, How the Chinese Ended the Era of Europe Domination by Robert Bickers. Now, invaded, looted and humiliated by Europe's empire, China is one of the countries which managed not to succumb. And today, after years of that attack, China has achieved that quest. It is one of the national territorial country. Author wrote about this long and agonizing process China went through to rebuild their country, and how they have rebuilt in a way that I don't think it can ever be vulnerable to any attack ever. Last is Move, How Mass Migration Reshaped the World and How It Affects You by Parag, Khanna. Now, a recurring feature of human civilization is movement, is constant search of resource and stability. And wars, genocide, revolutions, pandemics, etc. just accelerated this process. But in this book, Global Strategy Advisor Parag Khanna gives a vision of human civilization which is both mobile and sustainable. So these were the 10 books. I hope you get what you were expecting to from this video. And if you haven't watched the first episode, that is Fiction Book Text, please do watch it. And I think I'm done with GLF episodes. Yeah, just keep reading, be happy, be safe, and if you are purchasing any of these books and want to gift me, you are always welcome. Well, bye bye. We'll meet you on next video, and I am being consistent here, so just show your support and follow me on all of social media sites, and bye.